So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how you can make a simple race dash using Simhub and a 7-segment display. You will need one of these, which is a TM1638 board. These are readily available on eBay, Amazon and things like that, so you'll be able to pick one up pretty easily. You also need an Arduino Nano or an Uno. The Pro Micros and things are not really suitable for this application, so you will need these. You get a lead with it as well, which you can use for hooking both up, but you don't really need that. You also need some solder and a good soldering iron. There's one with like a nice tip like mine. Mine's a proper soldering station, so it's very good for this sort of work, very intricate work. You'll also need some hookup wire. I use the 0.6mm breadboard hookup wire because it's easy to get through the actual holes. I use a pair of wire strippers, and you just literally pull a little bit off, and as you can see it exposes the wire. It's just a single core wire, and as you can see when you put it through one of the holes it's very easy to get in when I get hold of it properly. There you go. As you can see, the wire's simply through, and you just can solder that up, so it's really easy. These holes are very small, so just bear that in mind if you're trying to use some other wire, maybe a twist together copper wire. It's going to be very difficult. So they're the main things you're going to need. Also, I'd recommend that you get a hot glue gun so that you can put the hot glue on to hold the wires down, hold it all nice and neat. I also have a 3D printer to make some covers. You could also use some tinted acrylic or something like that. There's plenty of options, but I'm just going to basically show you how to solder it up, what pins to go into, how to put it on in Simhub, and then how it will work within Simhub. So let's get on with today's video. Okay, so here we are, ready to make the dashboard. You just literally want to get yourself a decent length of wire. I would recommend approximately 120 to 130 millimeters of wire, just so that you've got enough to twist together, and you'll see as that goes on in the video. So basically you're going to need 4 of this length. Sorry, no, you're going to need 5 lengths of these wire, so just make the 5 pieces of wire to all the same length. This is easily done if you've got a soldering iron, you know, you could, and you're pretty good with a soldering iron, or if you're not very sure, then that's why I sell these on my eBay store, because not a lot of people have got the confidence to do this. I'll leave a link in the description below to my eBay store so you can have a look at the things that I sell to help people with their sim racing parts that they want for their simulator, LEDs and things. So you'll just literally want to strip the wire on both ends like so. Obviously this one's already part done because we stripped a little bit, and I use a take off approximately 5 millimeters, something like that. As you can see there, just take off a decent amount. It's important to have a decent wire stripper as well. Let's just adjust this camera up because it's a little bit low. It's important to have a good wire stripper just to make your job easier as well, because if you don't, then it can be very difficult. Once you've got all these wires stripped and you're happy with them, just push these to the side. What you can do then is just place your board down. Now, these boards that I get, they're pretty good, purely because, as you can see here, the pins that are already soldered on for the original plug adapter, most of these you'd have to actually unsolder all the pins. You'd have to take this off and unsolder all these pins and remove them all. But with these boards that I've got, they actually have the pins here, and they have the pins here as well, so you can actually just use these. I tend to use the top ones, as I just find that it's better for the wiring to come round and fit really neat. So what I tend to do with this is I like to put a dab of solder on the actual points that I need. So we're going to be putting a dab of solder on VCC, which is power, ground, diode, clock and STBO. So they're the pins that we're going to be using on these 5 here. So what I tend to do is I just get my solder and my soldering iron, make sure it's on the right temperature. I tend to solder at about 280 to 320 degrees. I'm running a Yahoo 898D soldering station, so if you're looking to get a decent soldering equipment, I'd suggest that you get something like this soldering station, as it's going to benefit you really. Obviously I've got a nice piece of sponge just all wet there, so I can just clean the end of my soldering iron up, keep it nice and neat. And what I tend to do is I just tend to tin up these points here, so I just literally do this. Just put a nice little bit of solder on just over the hole. Just get it nice and tinned up. And as you can see, we've tinned up them holes now. So what I tend to do then is I get each one of these, make sure it's straight so it easily goes through, and then I just warm the solder up and I place it through the hole gently, then let that set. Move that one out of the way, and then what I do is I solder the other side, just so that we get a nice good contact. Just get the solder on the point. Again, that's moved, move it to the side, because then what we can do is we can solder these up onto the Arduino. It will make it a lot easier soldering up these onto the Arduino afterwards. I always tend to find that it's easier to put these wires on first. You may be different, but this is just a demonstration video, so it'll help you make one for yourself at home. Like I said, it's just easy to do with this hookup wire because it's a solid core wire, so it makes it easier this way. If you were using a braided wire, copper wire or something, it'd be very difficult to do this. I wouldn't recommend putting the solder on first, but the way I do it, I've done it like this for a long time. Gets a good solder, gets a good contact, there's no issues afterwards either, so you know you're getting a good solder joint. And then we can use a pair of side cutters as well. So them points are now soldered up, and as you can see on the camera, a bit difficult to see, but it's actually soldered them up quite nice. So all I do then is I come back round this side, get the solder, and I just re-solder the points up and make sure I'm happy with them, and just make sure that they've got a nice contact. And then that way we know that we're getting a good contact and we're not going to have any issues from a dry solder joint. I do actually use a pair of side cutters, like these small ones like this, and then I can just get back onto these and I can just clean them up and make sure I'm happy with them, how clean they are. Just check them. Yep, and they're a nice joint. So what we do then is we check each wire. It's up to you if you want to use different colour wires. I'm quite happy to use all the same colour, but if you want to use like red for your VCC, for your power, black, and then maybe orange green, you can get different colours in hookup wires. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but what I tend to do is I have used some coolant pipe, and I've actually mounted a clamp on there. And then what I do is I find the VCC on the Arduino. Now if you look on the Arduino, it will say on each port, on each one, what each one does. Now I know it's very difficult because this camera's not focusing, but you have like 5-volt ground and then the pin numbers on each side. So we can look at that in Simhub as well, so you can identify it yourself. So if we just put this into 5 volts for VCC, because that's what your power point is, what I do with these is I just hold them in place with the hookup wire, like so, and then it holds it in a good position. Then what I can do is I can get my soldering iron, just give it a clean, and I can just literally get it on and give it a nice touch with this solder. Now the solder I use is actually a 6040, and it is pretty good solder. It's from a company called Kana. Again, it's just good solder, I just tend to like it. It's a 0.6 diameter, again similar to thickness to the breadboard wire, and as you can see we've got a nice soldered joint there. So I'm just going to clip that off just so it's not sticking down too far. I don't want any protruding pieces of metal as we're going to be putting it on top of this board here. We don't want any contact joints touching on top and causing a short. So now we're onto the ground. So I find the ground out pin, just shove the wire back in gently, just make sure it's in a good position, just so that the wires are not under too much tension. Again, grabbing my soldering iron and just put a dab of solder on. You don't need to do a lot, you don't need to hold the wire on for long, you know, just put the solder on, get a nice contact, nice solder joint, and again I just cut that off just so that it's nice and flush. Again, repeat. Now the diode pin, I always go to 7 because I tried to keep these in order because you can change it on the software. So I go 7, 8 and 9 in order of the wires. So we'll just literally come round here, find pin 7, which is D7, clamp that up, bit of solder, just touching it on, keeping it there. That one's a nice solder, doesn't need much of a clip. And then obviously we get to pin 8 for the clock, so we go to D8 as like so. So we're on D8 now. And then now we want D9 for the STBO. Pin out on the board. Just put a nice little bit of solder on that again. Just get sure you, like I said, it always helps to have a nice soldering iron because it makes life easy. If you've got one of these cheap ones, you tend to find that it's not going to be the temperature you want. Mine's a digital output, so I can actually read the temperatures that it's doing, and then you know that it's exactly what you want. I'm just turning mine down a little bit now. And as you can see, our Arduino is now soldered onto our board. What we can do then is, as we know it's all soldered up, we can plug it into our USB and connect it into our computer. And then what we'll do is we'll head over to Simhub and we'll just check it. So here we are inside Simhub, and as you can see the LEDs are flashing on the Arduino to let us know that we have got power and we're connected. So all we need to do now is just test this before we glue it all down. So what we want to do is head over to the Arduino tab, then head over to My Hardware, and then you want to open this Arduino setup tool. Now remember, if you've got other devices plugged in, either unplug them before you send the sketch or make sure you're happy with the COM port that this is connected. Obviously I know this COM port's connected to this device because it's the only thing that's plugged in, as I'm doing this all from my laptop in my workshop. So we want to start from scratch, and here's the generic name. So I'm going to change this to 7 seg display. And then this is the module that we need to do, the TM1638. So you want to click on 1. So we've got one TM1638 module connected, and as you can see we can reverse the red and green colours, which we're going to leave off. The common data pin, the diode, is on pin 8, the clock is on pin 7, and the first module strobe, the STBO digital pin number, is on 9. So on the one we set it up, we have actually put the diode to 7 and the clock to 8, so it's just 7, 8, 9. And as you can see down here, as we adjust that, it pins that and again put that back, you can see what's going to which, so you know that it's in order. So like I said, diode, clock, STB. Now it does say STBO then STB1 there, but just be aware that it does actually mean that. If you connect up another one in a daisy chain, then you use the next pin along. So I'll just move me down here. What you need to do then is click on this, and then USB serial CH340, this is what you want to be looking for. And then you just click this tick to say you're happy that you're not overwriting any other Arduino sketches on any other devices. That's to let you know. And then just click on this. It will test. And as you can see, once the sketches actually put onto the Arduino and uploaded, it will say upload successful. Now if you do this and it says upload not successful, try a different USB port, try shutting down Simhub and trying again. If it happens on a number of occasions, it does happen, I've had it happen to me on numerous occasions, that it will not load on, so don't be worried that there's an issue there. It's just obviously a glitch. So just close the software, open up again, even try restarting your computer. Sometimes I have to do that. I have had issues before. There's no explanation for it other than it's just one of them things when you're uploading sketches and things that these things happen, but 90% of the time you will be okay and it will say upload successful. So as you can see now, device is not powered up. So now that we've got the sketch uploaded onto the 7-segment module, what we want to do is come back over into Simhub, go back to Arduino, my hardware, and then what we want to do is scan for new devices only, and it will then find the device and the name that we give it. And as you can see here now, the 7-seg display is connected. Sometimes it has done that, it's not connected and then it reconnects, it's just configuring. And as we can see now, we have the information displayed on the screen. We can see the LEDs are all there and the display is on. So what we can do now is we can head up here into TM1638 LEDs and we can actually test these LEDs. We click on this and then we click in the test data editor, and as you can see I've inputted some data, but there will be some standard generic data in there from Simhub, so you can use that. And as you can see, I've already got the RPMs turned up and the LEDs are lit. So if I just turn the lights off in here, you will be able to see these lights, LEDs, working a little bit better. As you can see, they're scrolling up and down. The only reason it's backwards is just because of my camera. For some reason it's filming in mirrored. After its little issue, it's had a little hiccup. So as you can see though, they're all working as it shows within there. And then we know that them LEDs are working. So then what you need to do is you need to head over to the screens tab, and again if we just go down to the main screen, right down to the bottom, sorry, the time screen, the main screen's at the top, and as you can see that's the data that I want to see on the first display. These other displays are the ones that I use to run in Simhub. I've just copied this data from my simulator rig and put it over on in this room and on my laptop, and that's the reason why I have the LCD. So when I set up an LCD screen, I can see that the data's on, and then I just switch between the two. So if you do use an LCD screen, then obviously that's how you want it to display, so you can see the data as you input it and where it'll be on the screen. So that's basically how that's set up. Again, when you're in the main screen in the race, you will basically see the information on the first display. So mine would show lap 4. That's what I've got set, but obviously that's just the information I've inputted. It's just text, as you can see here. It's not a Simhub property. You'd have to click on this to actually input the data. So let's say we want to just remove this. Let's just remove this selected information. Okay, and then we'll click add. We can click on a Simhub property, and then you just want to come over here to pick. And then what we'll do is type in lap as an example. And as you can see, we've got game data current lap, game data current lap time. So I'm going to put current lap time in. I'm just going to input that data. And as you can see there, that's how it will be displayed. If you want to put it to the right, you can click on the right and just simply put how many in that you want. So as you can see, we've got 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're displaying that. As you keep it to the right, it will shift all this information over to the right. It tells you the raw property value, so that's going to display your time on that actual lap. As you're going round, it will come up with that information. And again, I'm going to do more videos explaining how you can map a button on your wheel or on your button box that you can just press and you can cycle through different screens. So you might want to see, I'll show you now, you might want to see your tyre temperatures, you might want to see your best lap, your fuel remaining, your current lap, fuel consumption, last lap, rear tyres. And as you can see on here, it says in game, in game, in game. You just highlight what you want it to see in game. So if you don't want to see, for instance, let's go down here, for example, the low fuel alert, you just turn that on, in-game one off, new lap data is not on, so you only basically cycle through the things that you want to see to get back. You can also have it so you just press a button for 3 seconds, it'll only display it, sorry, you press it for 1 time, and it will display the information for 3 seconds, so you can quickly see your tyre temperatures. You might want to just be racing round, press a button, and then you look and you can see your tyre temperatures, and then it goes back to the main screen of what you have displaying on that data. Again, I will do a video later on about different screens and stuff. I've done plenty of other videos, like my Simhub guide goes in depth about all this, so make sure you check that out. Don't forget to like it as well, because it helps my channel grow every time someone clicks that like button. So please make sure you hit that like button, guys. It really helps grow this channel. That's what I'm doing all this for, to try and eventually get to be one of the best YouTubers out there, providing information and sim racing guides and help and so forth. So what we'll do now is we'll go back over to this, and we will look at gluing it all together and the covers that I actually use. So now we're back ready to fix this screen on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug it. And what I do now is, this is why I've made the wires actually long, like I said. I'll just get some light on this. So what I do is I pinch the wires at the base so that I don't break them, and I just literally twist all these wires together nice and neat. And because the single core wires, they will twist together in a really nice way. They just twist up nice. Just be careful not to put too much tension on the wires where you're going to snap them. Obviously I like to keep the ones on the Arduino quite free. And again, we can just simply fold this round into shape where we want it, and then you can put it so that the Arduino is facing sort of like this, so that you can put your USB cable in so it's nice and straight. Okay, I've actually cut a piece of double-sided tape ready, but I tend to do this to put on the bottom of the Arduino, just so that we don't get any contact or interference, like I've said, with the circuit board on the TM1638. You don't want it to arc out once you've glued it down and have any problems, because it won't work. You won't get any data showing. That's a sure sign to know that it's not worked. So what I tend to do then is get myself my hot glue gun, put myself a nice bit of hot glue on where this arrow is, just put a nice bit on, just put that back in its holder. And then I tend to just put this on and just hold it in place. Once that's glued down, you might want to just put a little bit more around the board just to make sure it's held in nice and neat. You don't want this coming off. I just tend to bend these wires down into a decent shape, making sure that these pins are not going to cause any issues. And then what you can do is just form it nice and neat, something like this. Apply a little bit more hot glue here and here, and I tend to put some just over the back of the solder joints. And then you just literally want to hold that wire down and cool it off. Okay, so now we're glued up and we've got our wire secure in a nice neat shape. We're happy with the board and everything, and we want to just test it again and make sure that there's no issues. Just check that once we connect it we get power and the data displaying. As you can see, we've got data again, so everything's fine. So what I've done is I've actually made some covers, a front and back cover for these with a 3D printer, and I use these 10mm nylon spacers, and that way it stops it compressing up. And then I use an M3 by 30mm in length with some M3 nylock nuts. So what you can do then is, if you can't design this cover, then I'll probably share this STL if you've got a 3D printer, and you can just use this. Basically just put this on there, get the spacer and put it in between this section here, so as you can see it's not too tight on the screen. Again, put another nylon spacer on the back, and then the cover on that as well. So then I just wind the nut on gently onto this part until I have all the other 4 done. So now we have the 4 bolts in, the M3 by 30s with the nylock nuts on the back and my cover that I've made. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to gently tighten these nuts up and make sure that they're secure. Don't need to go overboard as it's only a cover. dashboard is in a protective case. You can just mount this on top of your wheelbase. You could put it on top of a monitor. You could put it on your desk, however you may want to have it. But this data you can turn the brightness all up in Simhub. You can make it exactly how you want with the LEDs. They're a good little dashboard. They're very, very reliable, very simple, and the fact that they've got LEDs in them as well is what makes them so popular with people, especially sim racers, rallying and things like that, because you can display data easily. As you can see now, the data is displayed. Just go back into Simhub and we'll just test them LEDs once more. As you can see, the LEDs are all working. Just come over to display and alerts, and you want to see this section here, main intensity, and as you can see, as I turn that up, it gets brighter and darker and dimmer. And obviously you can do each individual one. You can change if you've got more than one of these, because you can daisy chain them together if you like. We can test the data edit, and as you can see, the LEDs get brighter with the screen matrix intensity. So they're a great little dashboard, really easy to build and set up if you're pretty good with a soldering iron, like I said. So I really hope that I helped you today on how to build a simple dash. As you can see, that's nice and bright now. Please hit that like button, please subscribe and click the bell notification for all my future content. I'm going to be putting lots of videos on, teaching everyone different things, like say making dashboards, making handbrakes, how to wire up LCD screens. I'm going to be putting plenty of content on, so make sure that you click that bell notification so that you get notified as soon as I upload it. Maybe you're wanting to build your own DIY sim rig. These videos will definitely help you type of people. And like I said, if you're not very confident, then there's a link in the description below to my eBay page. I sell these at as cheap as possible price, just to help people get the dashboards and things that they like or want. So that's all for this video today. I will see you in the next one.